Right. We are back with another installment of Accepting the Challenges. You guys know here at Accepting the Challenges, it truly is exactly what the title says. So many educators around the world, they literally wake up every single day and accept that challenge. They accept whatever challenge is coming to them. And today's guest is definitely one of those people. He is, a servant in the classroom from all indications. And we're really, really excited to have, I'm going to call him Robert Churchwell the third. I won't call him by his full name the whole time because I'll get tongue tied. But Robert Churchwell the third. Robert, if you will, you are a teacher, correct?
Correct.
What subject do you teach?
Teach health and PE.
Health and PE. So,
Sir.
Robert, if you will, give a little bit of backstory into who you are, going all the way back, maybe as a kid, where you grew up, and
Okay.
kind of tell a little bit about your journey into teaching and education.
Okay. All right. Well, Shane, I appreciate that, man, and thanks for having me today.
No problem.
Um, well, I'm originally from Indiana, man. I'm South Bend.
We won't
Uh,
hold that against you.
and but I grew up most of my life in the Washington D.C. area, the DMV, as is known now. Um, I was always around basketball on the adult level and on the high school level, on the secondary or primary level because of my pops. My pops, he played in junior college at Vincennes, played at Niagara with Calvin Murphy. And so he was always on a basketball court teaching or playing. And so that's how I kind of gravitated toward it. But not only playing it, when I had the chance, smaller kids, I would teach and show them things.
Okay.
So I think that's how the whole teaching thing kind of came into being, just being around my pops and being able to help younger and smaller kids on the court. Fast forward a few years, man, had the opportunity to go to Gonzaga High School in Washington D.C. Played in the what's now called the WCAC, and throughout my time in high school, our motto was "Men for Others," all boys, male Catholic education. And so, we had to have so many community service hours. One of the things I would do, not so much going and cleaning up the community, but I would go to the elementary schools and middle schools and tutor, right?
Yeah.
And I would
Nice.
do weekend basketball camps. Like I was always hands on. I wanted to be hands on, and so that's what I would do. Went on to play basketball at Georgetown uh, for Coach Thompson.
You learn
And
learn learn from a great teacher again.
yes, indeed, man, yes, indeed. And even while at Georgetown, I had the opportunity to go visit area schools and give talks and run camps, and so I've always had that teacher mentality, right? That mentor mentality. Um, after college, got a chance to play. Overseas. Spent had a couple cups of coffee with Golden State in '96. That was the best coffee I ever had, by the way.
They
And
weren't they weren't the same team as they are now, as they have been recently, though.
no, no,
Yeah, yeah,
no, no. Matter of fact, when I was there, we were fighting for that eighth playoff spot.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But even when I was overseas, man, in Japan, England, Germany, and France, I always made time to go speak at schools, go do camps, to just hang out and work with kids, man. So when I retired in 2002, I really didn't know what I wanted to do because it was a kind of a forced retirement, a family situation. And so I said, well, I love working with kids. I want to stay in sports. So I started teaching. I went to a small private school in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I was living at the time. And it was pre-K through eighth, right?
Okay.
And here I am. I just finished playing 8 years professional basketball. I know everything. I'm good. Man, them little kids broke me down, Shane. They gave it to me. I tell you.
Well, look, don't feel bad because I did an interview not too long ago with a colonel from the Army,
Okay.
and he went from 30 years as a colonel Army deployed overseas in war zones and seeing people pass away
Mm.
and now he's in the classroom and his first year he said he's just starting his second year. His first year, he said, "Man, there were a couple of days I had to close the door and I had to have a good old man cry, man." He said because, and he's, and here this guy, he's teaching high school,
Yeah.
and he's like,
Yeah.
man, he's like, people say that, he said, I always heard it, teachers are lazy, teachers, they got it easy, or,
Mm.
this that. He's like, let me tell you something. He said, mentally, teaching's harder than being in the military and overseas. He's like, now
Mm.
physically, there's some things that are harder, but
Right.
he said mentally it's rough. So obviously an interesting story. Now, when did you move from Indiana to Washington D.C.?
Well, I was born in Indiana, and my mom wanted me to be born there because she was born there. My pops was born there, so she wanted me to be from there. But we were actually living in PG County, Maryland at the time.
Okay.
So I was actually in Maryland until I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And then my parents separated, and my
Got
mom
it.
and I went back to South Bend. And so I would be in DC every summer, every other Christmas. I was there second grade, fifth grade, and then finally in high school. So in '86 is when I made the official move back to the DMV area.
Nice. Nice. So did you grow up a Notre Dame fan?
I did, man. I
Yeah,
did. I
it's
used to.
hard.
I used to take the city bus over there, sell programs. I get into the games for free. I did. Yeah.
So now the next question is, did they recruit you at all out of high school?
Yes.
Ah, man, that
Actually,
had to have been a tough one.
yeah, man, it was. My mom wanted me to go to Notre Dame. I wanted to go to Georgetown, and my father wanted me to go to Duke. So that was my top three schools. And obviously, Georgetown won out.
Yeah. Which it all worked out, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
It all worked out. So my next question is, before we get into the education stuff, is when was your first experience with mumbo sauce? See, hey, listen, because there's a reason I ask, and there's a reason I ask, and it's ironic that we're talking. But go ahead.
That is hilarious. Shoot, man, the first time I can remember was probably in high school.
Okay.
It's probably my sophomore year of high school. And that's when I transferred from the public school down to the private school down to Gonzaga. And one of my best friends to this day, we went to high school and college together, Lamont Morgan. He said, "Man, we got to go the Lens. It's on Key and I don't know R something like that,
Yep.
Northwest, right?"
Yep.
And went in there, got some chicken wings, some mambo sauce, some French fries, and man, that was the
Oh.
best meal I had. Man,
So for all of you that are listening, and there's two different ways you can search for it. It's Mumbo with the U or Mambo with the A. So I think there's a couple of companies that started with an A because of trademarks and different things.
mm-hmm.
So I'm a foodie. I've traveled around the world. I've given 300 talks on 4 different continents. I love enjoying and traveling and trying new food. During the whole COVID thing, since this has been going on, I do all the cooking, so my wife can't boil water. No disrespect to her in any way. She would tell you she can't boil water, so I do all the cooking, and I actually can really cook. So I cook barbecue and smoke on the smoker and a bunch of different stuff. So I was like, man, I'm gonna try out some new sauces. I'm bored out of my mind. I'm sitting in the house every day, like I'm a whatever. So somehow I come across mumbo sauce, and I'm like, oh man, my local grocery store doesn't have it. So normally I would make my own, right? But the problem is the recipe is all over the place and nobody really gives the recipe away.
Yeah.
So I go on Amazon and shout out to Capital City Mumbo Sauce. You can get it at Amazon and they'll send it to you. And I got the regular version and the spicy version. And now I will say I have figured out the recipe, and now I do make it. I've just eaten it 2 nights ago on some chicken here. So yeah, mumbo sauce. I realize this is not about education, but listen, we all have something in common as we all enjoy a good meal, especially after a long day in the classroom.
Yes, indeed.
There's two things you have to do. One, you have to give mumbo sauce in DC, and you got to try it.
Hmm.
Um, and you can go everywhere from a carry out Chinese spot to a normal barbecue spot, wherever. But you can go on Amazon, you can get it. You can order whatever your favorite chicken is. Get you some Popeyes or get you whatever. Throw a little mumbo sauce on it, and I'm telling you right now, it will. It'll make your tongue smack your brains out. It is. It's really really good. But
Yes, indeed.
so you got into teaching. Let me ask you this. Um, was there a teacher in your life that kind of stood out and it made an impact on you, and you were like, aside from your dad, it sounds like your dad was that positive influence for you, was that, hey, let's serve others, let's give back. But aside from him, was there a teacher that you encountered in your in your young years where they just made an impact on you, and if so, what was that impact?
Yes, man. My sixth grade teacher, Teresa Phillips. Um, Let me start by saying she was fine, Shane. You know,
Okay.
that's the first thing.
Okay, so she had
But
your attention.
yes,
Okay.
she could get my attention and keep my attention, right?
Okay.
But it was more about the way she carried herself, right? She was very elegant,
Yep.
and just very exceptional, and she expected that out of you.
Yep.
And it wasn't an air of exceptionalism. It was just she expected you to
Like it's
work
like it's like
hard.
a level of confidence and
Yeah,
authenticity. It was, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and she would not settle for less, right? She had just a very engaging way of motivating you. And so she really is one of my teachers that really stands out for me. Consequently, when I went from sixth grade to seventh grade, um, my first day of seventh grade, I was in this seventh, eighth grade combination class, and I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. None of my friends are here. And so I went down to the office, like they got me in the wrong class, yada, yada, yada. Well, long story short, this was a new program for, tag for talented and gifted kids coming into middle school. And so they put me up with eighth graders. So I had half my class were eighth grade classes. And Miss Phillips had took it upon herself to sign me up for that. Um, and so that was the kind of teacher she was.
Nice, nice. So then you go to college, right?
Yeah.
And for those of you that maybe aren't as in tune with the sports world, I would challenge you to go Google, YouTube search Coach John Thompson. And when I say the name, that probably is going to pull the rest of you in. Um, what are some things that you learned? What was the best lesson you learned from Coach Thompson from a teaching standpoint? It may or may not have anything to do with basketball, but what was the most standout lesson?
Discipline.
And how did he teach that? And
uh,
because listen, we're gonna have coaches that
yeah,
follow along with this as well. So I think
right,
there's some,
right.
and speak freely. I don't think anybody's gonna be offended. We're all
Yeah,
adults here,
yeah,
so
yeah. Well, let me say, obviously there's some things that go on in the house that stay in the house, right?
correct.
But
Yeah, all athletes. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
exactly. You know how that is. But when I talk about discipline, man, I mean just a mindset, right? Of knowing what your goal is, right? What's in front of you to take those steps to achieve that goal, and what are you going to do to make it happen? Okay. And that was a daily, I won't say mantra, that was a daily lesson from coach. And it wasn't just about the X's and O's or the basketball. There was never a time, whether we were in the airport, in the gym, in a restaurant, or in a van driving somewhere, that he did not see a life lesson, something, right? And that life lesson generally was or centered around some type of discipline, right? You have to do A to reach B, right?
Yep.
After you reach B, you have to do something else to reach C, right? It was that discipline, it was that drive and that mindset to do what you need to do.
So two parts to that. One, did you realize that's what he was doing in the moment, or is it something after years after you picked up, you're like, oh man, I see what he was doing.
Man, freshman, sophomore year, I'm like, man, what is he talking about now? I
Yeah.
wish he
So
just leave me
yeah. So
alone.
yeah,
And
he's
let
always
I can
yeah.
put
Yeah.
my headphones back on, you know, put Rakim back in my ear, and just, but by my junior, senior year, and especially probably over the last 2 days, well, yesterday and this morning since he passed, um, just really reflecting. And the more my phone rang and text messages I received, and the more I reflected on just moments with Coach, a lot of what I had kind of knew or learned really sunk in even more.
Yeah.
Now, as a former coach or a father or athletic director and a teacher, but I'd say probably my junior senior years when I started understanding these are lessons, life lessons the coach is teaching, and he's preparing us for life after graduation.
Absolutely, and I think we've seen that in the sports world where, like Dean Smith, he passes away and he leaves $100 for all of his former players so that they can all go out to, like
Yeah.
that, like they need the money to go out to eat, to go. But it's that some of the lessons that you learn are, almost they're delayed almost, right? Like you didn't like there's things he taught you that you didn't know you were going to need or be able to tap into until he passed away. And it's kind of I guess that's really the mark of a good teacher, right? It's teaching you lessons and you don't even know you're going to need them.
And you know what else, man? Because you asked me how, and I think the other part of that is right. It's just like my students today; they want to see you consistently be there, that you consistently care, not today, and then they don't see it for another 3 months, right? He was consistent, right, in his lessons, in his teachings. He was there, even after I graduated. Personally, he was a phone call away with any guide and help that I needed. So he was consistently present.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah. And
Yeah,
you hear guys like Allen Iverson say, you saved my life, these
yeah,
different things.
yeah.
And I think that story is pretty public, but it's great. So my question is, because I mean, let's students and athletes, you're one and the same, especially until you become a professional. Even then, you're still a student of the game in different ways. Um, we've all known, like my coach is 500 plus wins, took 3 different teams to the state tournament, these different things. Like, I knew he was a good coach, but there has to be something about you that makes me as a human want to believe you or want to listen or want to follow you. And I think that's one of the things that Coach Thompson had a unique ability. You obviously saw it firsthand where, yeah, he had won and, he was a winning coach, but there had to be something about him as a man that made you want to say, I mean, I want to be like this guy. There's something about this guy I want to be like. And that's was there you said he was consistent, so you kind of got to it. Um was it always like was the lesson you got, was it always tough love, or was some of it like sitting around joking, you know?
Well, let me back up to my senior year of high school. My uh, in-home visit, right? So in comes the coach who I've been watching for the last I don't know how many years because he coaches my favorite team because I love Patrick Ewing and David Wingate and Reggie Williams, and he has this bigger than life presence, right? So that's the first thing. This bigger than life presence, and he's in my basement, sitting on the couch that I lay around in my drawers on watching videos. You know what I'm saying? Coach Thompson is sitting on it now, right?
Yeah.
And so at that point, man, I think it was his authenticity. He was just very authentic. I felt, and the way he presented Georgetown, presented himself, and presented what my future could look like, right? And all that just kind of brought me in. Coach is very funny. He was very funny, and there were many moments when he would just make you just crack up laughing, man. Because things he would say, things he would do, man. I remember one time. I guess I can share this now. There were like three or four of us in the gym just shooting, right? And I think this was the off season, and coach was having back issues, so he had like a little half donut pillow that he would wear around his back when he sat down. And so for some reason he had it around his neck and it was blown up. And so he was coming out of his office, and his office was upstairs. So he had to walk down the steps. So he in there shooting, and he missed that last step,
Oh man.
and he failed. And right, and we like we literally biting the whole because you can't laugh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and you
yeah.
just see three people just like sprint out the gym, right? Like one went this way, one went that way, so we could laugh, man.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And so me and my good friend, my former point guard Joey Brown, we sit in the training room cracking up, and then coach walks in the training room, right? So we tighten up. He like, look, he started laughing. He said, "Yeah, you mother was laughing at me, huh? Uh-huh."
So I can share with you a similar story. So and my assistant coach in high school who has now passed away.
Okay.
We all know the drill where you do a 3-man weave or a 3-man fast break, and you got to get
Uh-huh.
wide, right? They set the chairs out at half court. You got
Yep.
to go around the
Yep.
chairs. Well, I played my freshman year. There were 6 or 7 of us freshmen on the varsity team. We only had one senior, and had some different juniors and sophomores on the team.
Okay.
And a couple of guys that I played with, they were juniors at the time. One was a linebacker in football, about 6'4", just built like a grown man. Had
Mm.
offers to go play in the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the other one was we ended up going and playing. Could have went like UCLA, Tennessee. Could have went and played anywhere. Went and played, had a good career. I think he was a nose tackle. And these guys, man, they were big physical guys, especially to a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll never forget, we were doing 3-man weave, and Coach Ellison was standing at half court just outside of one of those chairs, and you had to run. And one of the guy, Delvin Colton, I'll never forget this. Delvin Colton's running, he's running wide. And everybody, again, Coach, he was like this rough, but he would come up to you and say stuff and make you laugh like 1-to-1, but you didn't like initiate the laughter, like it wasn't like that.
Right. Right.
And we were like, man, do we tell him like this guy's about to run him over? And somebody says his name, says Coach Ellison, and he turns, and when he turns, I mean, he hit him like
Oh.
with the shoulder,
Oh.
and he went up, feet went up in the air, laid down, and we're all standing there like, this is absolutely the most funniest thing I've seen. Like, but I can't laugh because
Yeah.
if you laugh, you can ready to run for the next hour and a
Yep.
half.
Yep.
And we were sitting there, and he got up, and I'll never forget that. I'll never forget this story. I'm sitting there, and he comes over to me, and he looks at me. He looks at me, and pardon my language for anybody who gets offended to sensitive language. He looks at me and he said, "That son of a bitch hits hard." And I died. I died. He's laughing. I'm laughing. But we were just sitting off in the side of the gym. Like I thought for sure we were all gonna run for that day. And but it's those interactions, and I tell you, kind of bringing it full circle. It's those interactions, and you talk about authenticity. It's those interactions that educators can have. And yes, you're right. You're not supposed to cuss your kids. Like you're not. I get all that.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's the only language that they understand, or
True.
depending on where they come from, I have multiple teachers talk to me in a way that, but again, it was in private, and it was like, man, look,
Yeah,
get your head out
yeah,
of your hind end. Like, you gotta,
right.
and you education doesn't fit in a box, right?
Yes, yes,
And what we learn doesn't fit in the box. So,
yes.
we have to be okay, and we got to become. I think we have to become better as a society at that, of being okay. And look, in order to do the right thing, somebody's going to get offended,
Hmm.
and
Yeah. Oh, there's absolutely no doubt, no
yeah,
doubt about that.
whether it's let's it's a hot topic in the world, right? It's race. It's a hot topic. In order to fix racism, white people have to make other white people uncomfortable. That's
Yeah,
just the nature of what it is. So we
agree.
have to do it. So let me ask you this. So now you've gotten into teaching. Let's fast forward a little bit. You've gotten into teaching. You're teaching. What was that first experience? I'm sure you've had one to where you were like, okay, this is why I do what I do.
Mm,
This is it.
mm. Let me start with the antithesis. It would be my third year of teaching, my first year at public school. Okay, and so again, this is my third year from playing, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing this just so I until I get this college job, right? I'm going to coach college, and so that first semester was the worst. Like it was a disaster. Um, and at the end of that first semester, I had to decide whether I was going to actually put everything into this, right? And be disciplined and do what I have to do, or I just need to walk away. And so I decided to do what I had to do. Obviously, 17 years later, 18 years later, I'm still in education. But it was that second semester of my first year in public high school where the light came on. And I was just like, this is hard work, but I love it. I love it. Like I'm really passionate about seeing these kids achieve. Um, just seeing that young man who couldn't do a push-up do two by the end of the semester, right? I mean, you got to celebrate that, right? Seeing that girl who wouldn't think about playing football, you know, catch touchdowns in flag football unit and run full length of the field because she has speed she didn't know she had until she was motivated to use it.
Yep.
It was just things like that, man. That made me feel like this is where I need to be.
Awesome. So let me ask you this. I've never asked a physical education teacher this. Um, but obviously not everybody's an athlete. Not everybody wants to be an athlete. I would say the majority of your students in a normal size school don't really care anything about working out and and getting out. Is teaching physical education as much about, like, yeah, I know you're teaching physical activity and your health and your things like that, but is there also a component of it that is also teaching confidence
Mm.
and a mindset of, hey, you can do things you didn't know you could do, or pushing through some of these is there a mental aspect of it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I think teaching as on a whole, what we do is we motivate, right? And I've kind of started going away from calling myself a teacher and calling myself an educator,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Because I just think that it accomplishes so much more. But one of the things I love about teaching, PE is team sports, right? So in the structure of my team sports class, everyone has an opportunity or will be given the opportunity to be a captain, right? They have to pick their team. Um, and people who would just more than would just love to just fade into the background have to step up and be a captain. And of course, throughout this process, like I'm motivating them, I'm hyping them up. It's a little bit of rah rah, it's a little bit of laugh and joke and tongue in cheek, and it's also helping them through the process, right? So that building that confidence, that's always there. Whether it be dynamic warm ups to begin our class, when they didn't think their bodies could move and torque and do this type of
Yeah.
movement patterns that they could do.
Yeah.
To, like I said, the end product of someone catching a touchdown and running it all the way down the field, man, or to health class when they're standing up and giving presentations, on whatever content we are presenting. It's all about motivating and building that confidence.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, and
yeah,
I think that's a big. I mean, man, especially so are you teaching PE at the high school level? Is that where you're
yes,
teaching? Okay,
yes,
so you even go that route even with high school kids. So
yes.
so how do you do that? If you rah me at 15 years old, I'm gonna look at you like you're crazy and tell you go somewhere else. So what I'm saying is how do you what are some tactics or some things you use to that kid who, coach, I'm not getting into it. No,
Yeah,
I'm not like,
yeah,
I'm too cool for school today.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, you just saying that reminded me of someone who tried out for me. On the first day, I think we were about a half hour into trials, man. He was sitting on the ground like, he was like, Coach, I smoked too much for this. I can't come out, And I wanted to laugh so
Hey, he
hard,
was
man, but I
honest.
couldn't.
Hey, yeah, he was
I
honest
couldn't. I
with
was
you.
like, you need to stop smoking, son.
Yeah. Yeah. First thing. That's the first
Yeah,
thing you
you
need to
know what I'm
stop
saying?
doing.
That's the first thing you need to stop doing. But you know what, man, and I think this is a part of Coach Thompson, right? Of the many lessons. Like this is my environment. This is my classroom, right? So when the kids walk in, and actually this may be some of Mrs. Phillips too, my sixth grade teacher. Like they are told, they are giving the expectations when they walk in, right? So there is no, oh, I don't, no, 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 no. We don't do that in here, right? So that is an expectation that is given, that is consistent, right? And it's present every day.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first thing. Now, after I give that presentation, that it doesn't hurt to be 6'7" and 250 either.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
helps
Yeah.
too. But I also do it with love, and I also do it with vulnerability, right? So I'm not afraid to get out there and for like for the sake of a better word, make a fool out of myself, right? I'm not afraid to participate in everything that they do at some level. Obviously, I can't do the same level of participation now that I could 10 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, but I'll still get out there and do push-ups, man. I'll jump rope. I'll go up and down the bleachers twice as it. But it's again, it's about that expectation, the norms that are set when they come in that classroom, and then when they see me doing it, or they see me poking fun of myself, it makes me real. It makes me human. And
Yeah.
so it makes them more willing to engage and to try. Hey, I may not try at a level 5 today, but I'm just gonna try at a level 2. And that's better than 1, right? We gotta crawl before we can walk before we can run before we can sprint. As long
Absolutely.
as I keep progressing, right?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think so you mentioned something about Coach Thompson and your sixth grade teacher kind of having I think that what might be missed there is that they carried themselves to the same standard they were asking you to carry yourself to.
Right.
So
Right.
therefore, it's really hard for them to say, "Well, why would I do that?" When I'm looking at you, Coach Thompson, he's what 6'10", he's a big
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
he's got this big, deep like voice that gets your attention. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, come here, knucklehead, like you're not listening. Like I'm telling you. So what he's not asking you to do anything that he isn't
Right.
carrying himself to that standard. And I think that's definitely important. The fact that you talked about vulnerability, I think that's the big key. I'm no psychologist. I've just lived it in my life. When you're dealing with kids who are too cool, it's they've either been picked on when they were vulnerable, and they don't want to shed that out there because it's like it's this fear of judgment, right? Somebody's going to judge me. Um, I mean, you're likely going to see it with coworkers, right? You're going to have a teacher that just won't won't show that you're human. Because that's what happened. Like, and this is what's crazy. That story you just told about Coach Thompson and him slipping and missing that last step. He
Right.
showed you he was human, even though
Hmm.
I expect elite human character out of you. I am still human just like you.
Exactly.
And that's, I think that's an important lesson, that we can give these kids, because we all know, emotional intelligence is something that a lot of kids obviously lack, whether it be
Very
because
true.
of circumstances at home and those kind of things. So, um, did you ever have did you ever have that kid who you were like, man, this kid's driving me bananas, and I can't, like, I can't do this. This ain't for me. Teaching ain't for me.
Man, Shane, and I'm not an overly religious guy, even though church is in my name.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I do believe in God and higher power, and I do pray. And I can probably remember 4 or 5 distinct times, and right in the moment, I was like, God, please, I need a sign right now. Like, I don't need anything subtle. I need you to slap me in my face and tell me this is where I'm supposed to be. And Shane, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, he gave it to me.
yeah,
Something happened that just reaffirmed where I
yep,
was supposed to be.
yep.
Whether it was mom who walked in school that day and was like, just wanted to bring this to you. You were my daughter's favorite teacher, and yada yada yada. And literally, might have said, this girl might have said 3 words, and I was always encouraged, right? Or this young man who walks over and says, Coach, I really appreciate the fact that you didn't give up on us, right?
Yep.
Even though we didn't win anything, you didn't give up. Something like that, just some type of affirmation, man. And, but there are kids that you just, no matter what you do, no matter what you try, that the relationship between them and Coach Churchwell just may not work, right? And I think that was one of my hurdles as a mentor and an educator that I had to get over, is understanding that I can't reach everyone. I can't reach them all.
Yeah. And it's not personal.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not.
Exactly.
It's not personal. A lot of times, it has to do with their environment and what they're going
Yep.
through, and
Yep.
and those kind of things. So, what would Coach Churchwell now tell Coach Churchwell in his first year of education? What's something you would share with yourself?
Woo. Um, Man, that's something. I think I would say you have to start out firm and a disciplinarian where you can loosen the screws as you go. If you start out, which I did and I paid for it, friendly, loosey goosey, how you doing, and then
And
try
and
to
that, and
tighten
that
it
was
up.
with the younger kids. That was with.
Yes,
Oh yeah. So
yes,
these
yeah.
little
They killed me. Yeah,
they
you
broke
know.
you down.
No, they broke me all the way down, Shay. And so I think that would be the first thing I would say is establish that environment,
Yeah.
establish your arena, right? Like the kids walk into my class, I say, "Welcome to the United States of Coach Churchwell," right? This is a dictatorship, you know. And I laugh and I joke and then we talk about things,
Yeah.
but that would probably be my first bit of advice.
Yeah. Heads up. These 8-year-olds are gonna have you feeling like an 8-year-old in the
Oh
corner
my
somewhere.
goodness. Yes, indeed, man.
Man. All right. So, so you're a coach. Obviously, do you still coach?
I do. I actually stopped my last year coaching as a head high school basketball coach was in 2018, and I started coaching AAU last year as a buddy of mine needed some help, and I said, "Well, okay." Really enjoyed myself, and was on tap to return to the team this year. And now COVID hit, and for family reasons, I decided to step away. But I do plan to pick up with that same team next season.
being a guy who played at a high level, both in college and professionally, I'm trying to figure out how to word this so I don't completely offend people. What is your mindset and mentality, and or how do you deal with the not the teacher, with the parent who believes that basketball is going to be the way that their world is changed, and they're going to never need anything, and that's the most important thing in the world, and all of these things. What is something that, I guess, what is your outlook on that, and then what is something that you try to educate the parents on, in a dose of reality?
I think the last thing you said, the dose of reality, man, is important. For me, through my experiences, always been that dose of reality, right? Um, Without killing any dreams or anything like that, but making parents understand there's a very small percentage that go from high school to D1, and an even smaller percentage that play professional, right? And uh, and I say one of the things I tell recruits or kids and parents, hey, how old are you? 15. How tall are you? 6'1". Okay. So that means you're like a combo guard, point guard. I don't know. You're little, right? There are 100,000 other
Yeah, a
point
million of
guards
them out
in
there.
the
Yeah,
game,
yeah, yes,
and that's not including the 4 or 5,000 coming from overseas.
yep.
And so, why do you think they're going to want you if your grades aren't at the top, and just because you hit three pointers last season?
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, so it's just about giving them that dose of reality, man. And
Well,
oftentimes, Shane, even when you give it to them, they hear something totally different. They
so I,
see something totally different.
so I love the fact that you're honest. And it's when I would travel around and talk about what we did with CCR, it was the same. Like, it was, here's the reality of it, right? You're
Mhm.
not gonna go do this. You're not gonna go do that. Now, don't stop working because I said no. Use that as motivation and
Right,
go prove me wrong.
right.
But and it does. So let me, man, because a lot of times, and I'll go and speak, and I can remember one of the last times I went into a high school. Actually, it was a high school. No, it was a middle school. It was a middle school when I went and talked, and I talked to a couple different classes, and there was one group that had about 6 or 7 athletes in there. It was mixed, I think, probably 50-50 mixed, white athletes, black athletes. And I went around the room, hey, tell me who you are, tell me what you want to be. And all of them, there wasn't a specific race that said it. They were all like, I'm going to go play professional this, or I'm going to go play professional that. And I'm looking at these kids and I'm thinking, so I was honest. I said, okay, well, that's probably not going to happen. Now what's next? And they're like, well, I mean,
Right.
that's what I'm going to go do. I said, okay, cool. Let's say you go do it, and the average NFL career is 3.5 years. So now what are you going to go do?
Mhm.
Well, I said, so we got to get in this mentality of that. It is. I'll tell you, and this is definitely going to ruffle some feathers, I'm sure, for some people who watch this or listen to it that are in athletics. I'm here in Kentucky, and there's this whole big uproar right now of, are we going to have football? Are we going to play fall sports? And it's almost like we've forgotten that sports, they're a huge part of things. I'm a massive advocate of sports, but it's not life and death.
Mhm.
And we have to, like, let's take the science into consideration. Let's take the doctors into consideration.
Yes.
And oh no, they should play their mental health. Look, there's some of them may be having mental health issues because of sports, because of the parents that are
Dig it.
overly,
Yeah. Dig it.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like,
Yeah.
if we're going to talk about it, let's actually talk about it. But
That's it.
yeah, so I think it's, one, I think it's massively a huge thing for you to be real with them, man, and to be honest. And I think it's, that is something that I wish more educators would do, is just be honest with these young people, especially in high school,
Yes.
and tell them, like, look, here's where you're headed. Not that I don't believe that you can become more, but here's where you're headed, and here's what's going to happen. And if you don't believe me, meet me on Saturday, and I'll take you to a neighborhood and show you some people that coulda, woulda, shoulda. And I talk about this. I have I actually had a really long conversation with him last night. I have a friend of mine who I played high school basketball with, and just a freak athlete. I mean, when I tell you freak athlete, I mean, and he was 5'10", could dunk from the free throw line.
Oh.
Yeah, so probably 100. He's gonna not like me putting his measurements out there, but
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
145 pounds soaking wet,
yeah.
and just a raw athlete. Well, he played. He also ran track,
Right.
and never really took it serious. Hung around with the wrong people. Did all these things. Goes his senior year and set the state record in the long jump. Came second in the triple jump and won the 100 meters. Right.
Mm.
Wins track athlete of the year, and then did nothing with it because he didn't take it serious. And he's like a brother to me. Like,
Right,
he's
right,
been in
right.
and he ended up going to prison and has gotten out and different things. But like, I'm one of those guys where, like, hey, this is like, you're blowing this opportunity.
Right,
Like,
right.
and I think, what we have to do is we have to be real. And I've talked to him, like, hey, was there anybody that really pulled you aside and says, he's like, nah. He's like, they just kind of just let me be and let me do my thing. And, I kind of put up my guard, and you got to be willing. I think, speaking as a kid who was, I would guess I would be considered at risk youth now. And, these different things, I was labeled learning disabilities now, or,
Mm.
whatever.
Yeah.
But you got to be honest. You got to learn to have some empathy with these kids and where they come from, and be real with them, and not be afraid to do the right thing, I
I
guess.
totally agree, man. Two things to that point, man. First thing is not be afraid to do the right thing. And I would tell my assistant coaches, Shane, like, look behind us, right? See all them people with the same shirts, colors that we have on? I said, you're lucky if 20% of them people are actually behind you.
Yeah, yes.
I said, you're lucky. I said, but what we have to depend on is that we're doing what's best for these kids. And that's first, and then this program, right? And that's it. And man, when I first went over to that same public school that I was telling you about, the head coach there, who's still a mentor and a really good friend of mine, he put me in charge of the middle school program. So this is in Georgia, Cobb County, Georgia, and we had feeder programs. So all the middle schools didn't have their own team. You might have four middle schools that fed into my high school, and all those kids had to compete for a spot on one team. And so I was running that. And I mean, and this was a very privileged area,
Yep.
right? So they thought they were entitled to everything. And man, I can't tell you the number of calls, meetings I had to handle. And so I actually developed this thing. It's called the Player Parent Coach Covenant, right? It's about 5 pages long. And essentially, over years and years and years, it's been a working document. It's now
Yep.
complete, but um, it's just a contract, man. It eliminates every shade of gray that I can. From what to expect, what players need, what's expected of players, what's expected of parents, what's expected of the coaching staff, right? And that's what it's going to take for us to build a team and a community. And that document, I've used it everywhere I've gone, and it helped tremendously. And everyone had to sign it. Parents had to sign it, players, coaches. And what I would find, parents, stuff comes home, you don't read it, right? Just sign it here, take it back. So what I used to do, man, I would bring for the parent meeting, and I would read it line by line,
You
the whole
can't. That
document.
way, you can't say you didn't know.
That's it. I would read it line by line, man. But that cut a lot of shades of gray, and it was just like you said, man. Tell the truth. and then I can hold you accountable, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll wrap things up here. But I normally end with two questions
Okay.
that are more molded to the guest, not just a blanket question. One I am finding pretty interesting, but for you, the first question I'm going to ask you, and being a sports fan, so I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Who was who was the first person to dunk on you in college? Hey, you said now you say you didn't mind feeling vulnerable. So
Oh man. I had to say, what was this guy's name? Plays for St. John's. My freshman year. I cannot remember his name. Big tall white guy, was a good player. Oh, and it wasn't like a full on facial. It was kind of like a half,
yeah,
right? It's kind of like a half. Like I've never
wrong
been,
place at wrong time.
yeah, yeah. So I've never, at least in college, I've never just been banged on like full all out. Um, but yeah, he kind of got me a little bit. I can't remember his name.
Was that 91, 92?
Try 90 91. Let me see. Maybe I can find it.
Ah man, let's see here. We got. I figured on that team, I would have picked. I would have said Malik Sealy would have got you. Um, Billy Singleton, Robert Verdan, Chanel Scott, Sean Muto.
Nah,
Wasn't one of those guys.
it was.
Are you there? I think we might have a lag in the system.
I lost you for a second. It was
Yeah. I think we had a little lag in the system. Did you find his name?
okay. Yep, Robert Verdan,
Oh, that's him. That's him. That's him. See,
6'11". Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
stirring
He got me a little bit. He got
I'm
me a little.
stirring up old memories now. So it's now
He
you're
got
not
me a
gonna be
little.
able to not think about it for the rest of the day. So
Hey, but look though, as a freshman on a bum knee on Big Monday, I
okay.
gave him 13 and 8. I gave him 13 and 8.
Well, I see you guys were ranked 18th in the country when you played them as well. I see. I see it on there too. So the last question. We know teachers. Sometimes you have to miss a planning period. Sometimes you have to miss your lunch and cover for something or somebody. What is your go-to snack that you keep hidden? That in case in between classes, you get hangry or you need that little extra pick me up. What's that go-to snack?
I'm a teacher.
It cut out. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I said I'm a teacher. It's an apple.
Oh, an apple. Man. Oh man,
And man, no,
you're also the PE and health teacher too.
and
So
that's it. I gotta model the behavior that I want to
ah,
see, right? But I'm on the side pocket of my backpack, always got an apple in each one.
okay, okay.
Always.
I've gotten all kinds of crazy answers from different people. My wife is a teacher as well, so
Okay.
when I do the grocery shopping, it's always, hey, do you need this, and this? Because I know she has a rotation of things she's got going.
What does she
Rob,
teach?
she teaches special ed in middle school. So
Ooh,
yeah,
ooh,
yeah, yeah,
man. Yes, there is
yeah.
a special place in heaven for her.
I tell I so I can share this for anybody, and it's actually, I don't mind to share. It's actually a really good tactic we use to kind of decompress from the day. In her early years, we don't do it nearly as much
Right.
just because she's seasoned in it now. But in her early years of teaching, I obviously work for myself. I work from home or have my own schedule and those kind of things. So she she would come home from school and have had a day,
Mm.
right? She's had a day, so it got she get the um she's not a big talker, but I get her to vent. So finally, we made it a routine to where when she came home, I was sitting at the island in the kitchen, and I just sit there, and I wouldn't say nothing. I
Yeah.
just let her kind of be, and then she get to talking, and here it comes, and she'd go, and then about 20 minutes later, she kind of slowed down a little bit. I say, anything else? If there was anything else, she'd go, or if that was it, she's like, no, that's it. I'm like, all right, we're good. Like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
so you gotta take some pressure off the valve a little bit,
Yes, indeed.
because it is, even whether you're teaching special ed or not.
Mhm.
Yes, I mean you're dealing with a bit more trauma and a bit more things in the household with some of those young people, but those things also exist in regular classes with the regular population, in schools as well. And I think mental health is a huge thing.
Yes.
Mental health is, it's just like your cardio, right? You can either go out and run 3 miles or you can't, right? You can either mentally deal with some of these things or you can't. And
Right.
we either
Exactly.
have good mental health or we have bad mental health. We all have it.
Mhm.
So I'm a big advocate for those things, and taking time to decompress, or
Yeah.
give her time. There's times where I'll just say, here, you got your shows you want to watch. I'll go downstairs. You
Mhm.
just stretch out on the couch and eat some Oreos and watch your show, and
Yeah.
and do your thing. So
I totally agree with you, man, with the mental health, social, emotionally, man. Like in my class, in every other class, there's a starter or a bell ringer, or as soon as you come in, start working.
yep,
Nothing wrong with that. I don't do that in my class, right? Technically, I'm supposed to, but when they come into my class, I want them to decompress, right? You in Coach Churchwell's class, we can raise the volume up. You can talk a little bit. You can run around. You can,
yep.
I want you to decompress. Then I'm gonna bring you back together. Then we're gonna get to work,
Is
right?
that is that what broke you at the elementary school? They got a little too. They got a little too. They got a little. They got. They decompress a little too much.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, man. I was Coach C, right? And the guy that hired me was Coach B. He was a veteran, 20 years, whatever. So them little kids running in, I'm like, oh, they so cute. He looked at me. He said, ain't none of them cute. All of them evil, right? I should have listened.
Hey, man, do you have kids?
Man, I got five, just like you. So we
Okay.
we got to meet somewhere in the middle for 5-on-5.
Yeah, we'll have to. So did you have kids when you started working with the young kids then?
I had one, my
Son
oldest
or a son or a daughter?
daughter.
Oh, she had you fooled. She had
Yeah.
the, she had dad, like my first one was a daughter. I'm
Hmm.
told all the tough guy in the world goes out the door when she crawls up in your lap and snuggles
Yes,
up with a
indeed.
blanket, wants to read a book or whatever. It all goes out the window.
It's
So
gone.
you just assumed that they all were gonna love you like that, right? That was the problem. So Robert, listen, thanks so much for coming on here, man. Thanks for taking some time out of your day, to share your story, share your journey, some of your insights and things that you've learned. You obviously have a pretty unique perspective on some different things coming from the lineage of coaches that you have come from, and it just even that story of dealing with those young people in the elementary school, that is accepting the challenge, right? Because they're going to come in and you have
Yep.
no idea if they just had a birthday party and were given a bunch of sugar and cupcakes before they come into class, or whatever. And you embody that. You do that in what you do every day, from teaching to athletic director to coaching. And I'm thankful for people like you in the world. We need that, and that's the whole purpose of this: is to shed some light and put some shine on people like yourself that wake up every day. You can make a lot more money doing a lot of other things, but this is what you choose to do. So we appreciate you.
Shane, thank you very much, man. I appreciate your kind words, and I appreciate you having me, man. I really enjoyed myself.
Absolutely. I think let's definitely stay in touch after
Yes,
this.
yes,
I think we've got some synergy and some different things where we
I agree. I
maybe we
agree.
can build a friendship out of this. I
I
appreciate you
agree.
coming
And
on.
we got the
Yeah.
same hairstyle too.
Well, I know why you're bald. You got 5 kids, so I know now. It's I can relate. I can relate. Well, good to have you on, man. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Shane. Take care,
All right.
man. All
Cheers.
right.